We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email John at nufcmatters.com to arrange today.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you, you're the only thing that makes us all believe. And it feels alright when the worlds collide. Manipulation stands to make us red. What time is that coming over you? You wish it upon a star. You wish it on a star. You are, you are, you are. You fight back, it's an all-out attack. It feels like I've been taken on the world's machine. Because I want it more than anyone can dream. You look back and it's all in the past. You tell me how you live by all the things you do. Well, you can be yourself, but maybe I'm not you. And it feels alright when they come and say to you, you're the only thing that makes us all.
Good afternoon, welcome to NUFC Matters, talk of the Toon. After last week's technical issues, we are back, Sid. It's not sponsored by Virgin Media, Sid.
No, definitely not. Yeah, definitely not. We just had a conversation about that. I bet they're pleased they're not listening to it, that's for sure. But there we have it.
Yeah, exactly, mate, exactly. At least we can laugh about that. This performance, I really haven't been looking forward to doing this show. But let me get my say out the way first. I genuinely was worried about last night's game. I predicted a 2-1 win. I was very tentative. Everybody else on the fans forum and prior to shows to that were predicting 3-0s and 4-0s and 3-1s. And I genuinely felt that was a potential banana skin. And so it proved to be. But it was a proverbial game of two halves, but without a goal for Newcastle. And a goal does change things. Eddie Howe is right. Goals change things in football. The problem is, at home especially, Newcastle United aren't scoring goals. 85 goals last season. This season, struggling to hit a barn door. And Isak scores those chances last night. Anthony Gordon scores his chance last night. Newcastle win that game. I see Newcastle winning that game comfortably as well. West Ham collapse. Newcastle go on to win the game, and it's a different story, but that's not what happened. And you can point your fingers at this person and that person, which people unduly have on social media, but in the grand scheme of things, give West Ham a little bit of respect as well. They came, they set up, and they did a really good job last night. They really just sniffed out our midfield. It was as simple as that. Eddie obviously changed things, went for Joe Linton on the left, went for Gordon on the, goes for Joe Linton on the right, Gordon on the left. Then tried to switch it again, which he's had a bit of success with. Forced into making a change at centre-half. And dare I say it, Lloyd Kelly failed his audition drastically. I felt he was at fault for not one but both goals. And ultimately, I think the performance last night, he just missed an opportunity. And Dan Burn will be the easiest team player selection at the weekend. We missed Dan Burn last night. But it's not all down to Kelly. It's down to a poor team performance. In certain areas, there was certain players who just didn't do themselves any justice. Were they tired after the international break? They had a day or two longer than some people did on international breaks, or was it simply down to, was it down to the fact that we had the international break and we had 2 weeks off? We lost that momentum, but we've just got to dust ourselves down, lick our wounds like we have done after the Brighton game and after the Everton game, and we've got to bounce back. And it's a tough game to ask us to do that. Crystal Palace away and then Liverpool at home, 2 tough games. But you wouldn't put it past Newcastle to go to Crystal Palace and get absolutely hammered and then beat Liverpool at home. That's just following Newcastle United. So that's it. For me, I'm disappointed, like you all will be watching the show. But we will bounce back from it. I've got no doubt about it. There is a great team there on paper, and we just need to sort a few basics out. But Sid, I've ranted on long enough. What was your take of last night's game?
I thought it was Steve Bruce for a second now, and you can see we're going to dust ourselves down and sort of the extra effort into the training and this, that, and the other. No, it was abysmal. It was funny, innit? It's funny how you sit and watch a match and you have a totally different perspective, because for both goals, I didn't see who let the goals in. So I came away from the match thinking, oh, Kelly had a pretty good game. And then I got the pub and there goes, oh, no, he was to blame for letting the first one and he was to blame for the second one. I was thinking, oh, okay, I didn't see that at all. But because I thought his tussle was pretty decent in there with regards to the Antonio. But, we were terrible. I mean, the first half, I thought give him a round of applause walking off. I thought, God, how did we not score 2 or 3 goals in the first half? I thought for the first 10 minutes, we absolutely battered them. Then we let that stupid goal in. And it was bizarre because before the game, I mentioned that their centre-half, I forgot his name now. And I says, Thomas Krajcek, is it? I says, watch him, because he's really good at corners. And, of course, he just open air, easy header, nuts it in. Foreman. I thought first half we played really well. I thought the 2 fullbacks were fantastic. Looked really threatening. I thought we looked really good. Isak, from where I was sitting, you couldn't tell he was offside. Clearly he was, because they did the VAR in about 30 seconds. So fair dues. But from where I was looking, I thought, yeah, we looked really, really good. I couldn't believe we kept missing all those chances. Isak looked pretty good in the first half. Big Joe looked all right. Gordon looked all right. And then the second half, 10 minutes, we were fantastic again. And then we conceded exactly again. And it's like Groundhog Day, because it's almost like watching the Brighton game and other games that we've seen this year, where we start off really brightly and then we just collapse. I thought Eddie Howe's substitutions were abysmal. The second half, by the end of the match, this is the first time since Sam Allardyce, may I add, where I've watched a game and I didn't understand the formation by the end of the game. I was thinking, what the hell is that all about? I don't understand it. I genuinely didn't know what the formation was. I didn't know. And by that point, everybody's looking at each other on the pitch, wondering where the hell they're supposed to be playing. And that makes no sense. I didn't understand Livramento suddenly having to move positions and you bring in Kieran Trippier on. I didn't understand that substitution at all. Yeah, absolutely, totally agree, John. I said exactly that last night. 4-3-3, change it and be more flexible. I'll tell you what we were missing last night, and I'll keep saying it: a person who can unlock the door in the back, someone who can slip a little ball through. We've probably got one, but he plays left back. Lewis Hall has got imagination, and the ball he slid through earlier on for Isak was magnificent. And he seems to be one player he's by far our best player at the minute. He looks just magnificent.
Yeah.
But we're missing, and I hate to say it because I don't like him, but we're missing a Maddison type player, somebody who can just do something a little bit different, a little bit unpredictable, somebody who's got something about him, and we don't have that. And I'm sorry, but I'm one part of me is pleased that there's sort of the Joe Willock and flipping Longstaff myths being busted now, in terms of play them together, they never get beat. Because I thought Willock was absolutely dire yesterday, and he was lucky to get to the half time as far as I was concerned. And what I didn't understand was Tonali not coming on. I didn't understand it because, quite frankly, Barnes was awful. What did he do? Nothing. Gordon did nothing much. Barnes was awful though, but Willock was dire. And I honestly, he's got to start banging goals in for me. And if you get an offer for him in January, sell him as far as I'm concerned. And yeah, people might say, oh, it's a bit harsh. They'll give the lad a run and this, that, and the other. How much more time do you need? You know, I mean, Murphy came on, terrible, you know. And you've heard me say, yeah, I totally agree with Mark there. You've heard me say I quite like Murphy as a sub, and I do. But he was awful, you know. And nobody... Tonali was all right when he came on. He's really class about him. I mean, he's got, was it so many consecutive man of the match appearances for Italy, yet somehow can't get a game for us. That just absolutely mystifies me. I watched Craig Hope say he was rubbish yesterday, and I'm thinking, Craig, you must watch a different game to me. You know, you must watch a totally different game to me, because I thought he was pretty good. I thought Big Joe was all right last night, and then they moved him, then they took him off, and I couldn't understand that. I just didn't understand the substitutions at all. We should have had a penalty, but I don't think it made any difference whatsoever. It made no difference whatsoever with regard to it. But ironically, Wilson actually looked really good when he came on. He harried them. He caused a bit of pressure in the box. He's got that sort of nasty side to him, which I think you have to have as a centre forward. And we should have got a penalty. Should have got a penalty absolutely all day long. But we didn't deserve anything from the game. And can I just say as well, West Ham are not a good team. Yeah, they're not a good team. They're a pretty poor team, and we should have took them away. Same with Everton. But may I add, though, their fans are spot on. You know, seeing the fans after the game, nice people, good fans. So more than happy there is for them as fans. They're nice people.
You haven't touched on Kelly, and I mean, I've gone in maybe stronger.
Yeah, well, I'm saying that. I thought Kelly was weird, because I thought Kelly played all right, and then I've discovered subsequently that he gave away the 2 goals, so fair dues. You know, I kind of comment on he obviously had a stinker, if that's the case. You know,
I mean, look, it's just. I think the first one, you know, he just for whatever reason he decided.
It's hard to see from when you're sitting in the East Stand and you're thinking, well.
I've watched it back, and he left his man. You know,
yeah, it was fair. It was like Isaac the other day, isn't it? You're thinking you don't know if you're live who's supposed to be marking who half the time, and then for the second one, it was up the other end, and I couldn't see who it was who again didn't go and attack the player. But just poor, very very poor, and he's a player for me who probably needs a run of games, because I thought he was outstanding against Chelsea. You know, I thought he was excellent against a good centre forward, yet poor last night, obviously. Mm-hmm. And I can't believe that Dan Burn is your answer as a centre half. He's a good player, he's a good squad player, absolutely, but he wouldn't be an automatic starter for me, you know. Because
you know what's going to happen? Botman's going to come back in. Botman's going to come back in, and Burn will be left back again.
That would be terrible, wouldn't it? You can't do, surely. I don't think Eddie Howe would do that. You know, the kid's been outstanding.
I mean, people say just Kelly need a good run in the team. I mean,
he does. I mean, you can't tell me that he's the Bournemouth fans are saying he's a guy who should be playing for England, and then he comes to us. He plays outstanding against Chelsea, but then he's had very patchy performances and a poor performance as well. I think he probably does. You've got to have a speed merchant in the back four. And the two fullbacks are quite pacey, not electric, but quite pacey. But he's electric pace. He's really, really quick. And Shaw's not. And neither is Burn, of course. So we need somebody with pace. And Botman's definitely not. So we need somebody with pace. Whether we go and buy somebody, I don't know. For me, that's not the priority at the minute. For me, a priority is a goal scorer or somebody who plays 10 and centre forward or right wing, whatever. But we need somebody who can score. Yeah, he is. I agree with Antonio. He's not great, is he? But yeah, it was absolutely awful performance. I thought the substitutions were truly dire. You know, and that's on the manager, that one. I have to say that's on the manager. But the performances are down to the players, and they just did not perform. Or I'm not saying they didn't look interested, because they clearly did. But I just thought there's a lack of quality there, and it's proven by the lack of transfers. But what's more frustrating, before the game I said 6-0 or 1-1, you know, and then and it was the strongest bench I think we've probably ever had. I looked at that bench and I thought, wow, look at the amount of international footballers we've got on that bench. You've got Tonali, you've got Wilson. You've got Barnes, and there's a couple others who've all played for even Dubravka. They've all played for the country, most of them. And you're thinking, okay, that's a super bench, but you made nothing of it in terms of the substitutions, because some of them playing players out of the wrong positions just doesn't make any sense.
I mean, I listened to how after the match, you know, some of it, I mean, Willock was enforced on him. It was an enforced substitution, Sid. You know, there was an injury there. And it's the first time, I mean, I haven't watched the whole game back. Somebody just mentioned about Longstaff taking out Willock. I wonder whether that's how he got injured. You know, I'm not sure how he got injured, but he suddenly seemed to break down. Bruno was definitely doing what somebody's mentioned in the chat there, is running through treacle. Certainly doesn't have the pace to overcome some of those players. But I think the
one player, Steve, because he's not got the pace.
And Gary says West Ham playing a low block 9 behind the ball out of possession. We struggle against that system for some reason, Sid. That's a good point.
It is. But we've got the pace merchants just to flick it over, because they had a high line for quite a big chunk of the game. Mm-hmm. But I totally agree. This is what I'm saying. We need a player, as Gary's right, where we need a player who can unlock the back, just a little slide ball, who can do something, or can like do the old Peter Beardsley dance past the player and smash it in, or do something. And what also really annoys me, the lack of shots. I am sick of seeing us trying to score the perfect goal. Man City did try to do it the other day and got walloped off Spurs, and it's all this trying to roll it in on the line by doing 100 passes. Just have a bloody shot from 20 yards, please. Test the goalkeeper. But there wasn't enough of it, and not enough of it. I don't mind if you have a shot and it goes wide or it goes over or the keeper saves it. Fair dues, but you've got to shoot to score. You know, Don't be scared. Don't be scared to have a shot. There's just not enough of it, and I just thought we looked really good up to the final third, and it's just very, very poor. And it's the same story. It's like Groundhog Day over and over again. It's almost the same performance, and I am not happy with the fact that they can raise the performance against better teams, and then you play your so-called, and it sounds quite condescending, it's not meant to be, your sort of not so good teams like West Ham, like Everton, and just don't put a performance in. You know, I can accept being beaten on the odd game at home where it's going to happen, you know, like a Brighton or whatever. It's just going to happen every now and again. But the way they responded yesterday was awful. It was awful. So, yeah, big shout for the next few games for me, isn't it? It's a big shout. And, you know, it's up to Eddie Howe, and I'm hoping he turns it around. I'm sure he probably will. But Palace is a massive game, and they're just starting to edge back into form a little bit.
Yeah. Anybody can beat anybody in the Premier League, though.
Yeah,
I said this yesterday. If you let your standards drop, anybody can beat anybody, and that's proven to be the case again. And Newcastle let their standards drop yesterday, and that's it. You know, you just got to crack on. And Crystal Palace is a different game, and you just don't know where you're going to be with that. There'll be, you know, but I think Dan Burn will be back in, no doubt about it. And look, Lloyd Kelly will get his chance again.
I just felt stupid because I looked at that team yesterday, and I don't think there's a massive difference between Newcastle and Arsenal's first 11. I don't think there's a massive amount in terms of they might, if we combine them, they maybe get 6 and we get 5 players in. So I don't think there's a huge difference. And then, yeah, it's down to performance, I'm afraid. It's down to performance, and also, as I say, the persistence of playing players who've got a lack of quality, you know. And I'm sorry, but that's definitely the case, you know. Tonali should be in the starting 11, and you have to adapt and change the formation to get somebody of quality. You don't pay 50 million to have a player sat on the bench. You got Barnes, 40 million pound or 38 million pound, and he hates the phrase super sub, but he's got to do something about it. And again, if you get a decent bid in for it, take it. You know, I know you're going to get your money back and make no money on it whatsoever, but you know, you can reinvest if need be. Yeah, that's the way I look at it. I don't think they will, of course. I don't think they will, but they should start looking at things like that, because it ain't good enough. You know, it isn't good enough. And if you listen to the Leicester fans with regard to Barnes, he was the same for them. He'd do nothing in a game, and it sounds stupid, but he'd score a goal, and he'd score 15 goals a season, which is fantastic. But his overall contribution was minimal. And it seems to be, you know, he's not great. I'm afraid he's not great.
Steve, I agree personally with what you're saying there. We're not playing to Isaac's strengths. Look what he's like with Sweden. Eddie's been found 1-1 system. At times we do play to his strengths, and you know, but he missed a couple of gilt-edged chances yesterday. His finish on the disallowed goal was wonderful, but I think you're right. We don't seem to have that plan B system, you know. But like I say, 2 weeks ago, we were world beaters, you know, and everybody was up, you know, over the moon. Three wins in a row, 3 really important wins, and Newcastle were, you know, firing on all cylinders. One defeat doesn't change that. He's got to get back to basics and get it back on Saturday against Crystal Palace, and hopefully things change. But I just think there should be some perspective, though. There should be some perspective, though. We shouldn't be flip floppers. We shouldn't be, you know, we shouldn't be hyper 1 minute and down the next and have no in between. Let's have a bit of perspective. Newcastle, statistically, yes, they played well yesterday in with a better team. Ironically, the games that we've won, Sid, this season have been games where we've not had much of the ball.
Yeah, because we don't have the personnel to play possession football. That's the simple thing. We do if you stick Tonali in the midfield, and then you got him and Bruno who are great on the ball, and then you've got others who are great on the ball. Isaac's great on the ball. Big Joe's good at holding the ball up and doing whatever. But if you look at other players who don't have the quality on the ball, I mean, you actually put Gordon into that bracket. His first touch is not great. It's not great. He gets through it with his sheer pace. You've got others whose first touch is not great. Sean Longstaff, his first touch is not great. You know, Willock's first touch, all right, but we need a bit more quality. We need better quality players to be able to play that possession style football that he wants to play. And if he doesn't, then resort back to what you've got until you've got those players to play it. But for me, I want to see a different formation. Yes, go with 4-3-3, but if you don't, change the formation if it's going against you and do something different. Don't just keep playing the same thing or play a system that nobody understands, which was what the last 5-10 minutes of the game yesterday, because as I said, I couldn't tell you what it was. I have no idea what that was. It was just a bloody mess. Let's throw all these players on and see what happens. That's not really what I want to see. If you're going to go down fighting, then go down fighting and change it and stick 3 up front, maybe 3 at the back, or do something a little bit different. But make sure that everybody knows where they're playing and practice it. I'm sure you must practice it, but make sure that they know, you know, that they're regimented in their formation and they know what they're doing. But it just looked, that could have been Steve Bruce by the end of the game yesterday, you know, and nobody could have said otherwise on McLaren, and nobody would have had would have been none the wiser. It was just awful, absolutely awful. And West Ham knew what they're doing and did a job. You know, fair dues to them, but garbage without trying to swear here. Absolute garbage.
Yeah. Mark says, Sid, do we as a fan base massively overrate our players? I think we do, he says.
I think some players are top players. I do think we've got some top players. I think we've got one world-class player, and that's Isaac. Bruno's not quite top elite. Tonali, early days to say. We've got players who might be close. I'll tell you what, Lewis Hall might be one day. But that's probably it. Big Joe, terrific. How do you define Big Joe as a footballer? I don't think you can. He's so unique, isn't he? You know, the references to Kennedy recently was Ray Kennedy is maybe your best sort of analogy. But other players, they're not quite there, are they? Gordon's never going to be a world-class footballer. He's going to be a very good footballer, but he's never going to be a world-class footballer. Barnes, so Premier League, mid-table, maybe slightly better. And that's the way I look at them. And I think some of them are way overrated. I mean, look at some of our back four. Would any of them get into the top 5 or 6 teams currently in the Premier League? I don't think they would. Some of them would, the 2 fullbacks, but your 2 centre-halves probably wouldn't now. Shaw seems to be on a downward slope.
Didn't have a bad game last night. Made a couple of errors, but then so did everybody else. So I wouldn't have gone in too heavily on Shaw. Yeah, I would agree. Gary says, Sid, Steve, where should we play Tonali? In the centre, do you think, and move Bruno to the right? He says.
It depends on how you want to do it. It depends on the formation, Gary. But I would definitely have him as the holding midfield player and let him do the running and back and forth, because you've got the pace, which Bruno doesn't have. Bruno could be your man who does the unlocking. At the top, he's got that little slide pass. he's clearly a street footballer, isn't he? He'll have done all the things we did as kids and play in the garages and all the rest of it, and play on the street. He's clearly a street footballer, and you can see that little slide pass. He might be the man who can unlock your sort of defences up the front, but there's no point in doing it further back in the pitch. And I don't like to see him constantly getting the ball. And yes, I love to see a player demand the ball, but not him, because he's too slow. And he's a fabulous footballer. He's a fabulous footballer, but have him further up and let him do the damage further up, not at the back. So
Steve says that I agree, Steve, but it's concerning players' mentality up and down. We are crying out for better quality players. 5 good players aren't getting to Europe, and agree we are overhyped about players. Yeah, mentality is a big thing. That's what I'm saying. Momentum, confidence, whatever you want to call it. We do seem as well to get deflated. Like the crowd was deflated last night when that goal went in.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, it was quiet. Yeah, I mean, fair play. The Gallagher Strawberry Corner tried their best, constantly singing throughout the game. But even they had times where they were resting their vocal cords. But yeah, I agree. And Mark says Pope still pushing balls away. He should be catching. Pushed one into a dangerous area last night. I think we should still need a new keeper, which is mad considering we've got 5. And Steve says, I'd play Bruno at 10. In my opinion, he's not quick. And Roger says Sandro didn't look happy. And Trafford, yeah, I mean, look, we've got 50 people on Barry Hogan's list already linked with their moves to the club. I would imagine Trafford's on there, Gary. And Dave says, I think everything was just too slow yesterday. We lack players that can unlock a defence, which is a point that Sid made earlier. Okay, halfway through the show, quick break, and then we're back with Rob. A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. You can find them at their website, skipsandbins.com. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. Thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. Their website is mrvickies.co.uk. Email them info@mrvickies.co.uk or telephone 01768 210 102. Thanks to our fanzine sponsor, United Group Travel. Congratulations to them on their Travel and Tourism Award 2024. 2-crew driver and courier, local family company, 3-star plus quality hotels, no interchanges. All excursions included. Find them at their website www.unitedgrouptravel.com. Email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com. Telephone 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. Just £30 per person deposit. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. Thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the technical side of things. And don't forget, we are also available as a podcast on iTunes and Spotify and other podcast providers. If you get the time, please hit the subscribe button. It does do us a big favour. Hit the like button, which is the thumb under the video. That helps the channel grow. And click share to share to your other social medias. You can also hit the join button and become a member. Some dates for your diary. In aid of Newcastle Cat and Dog Shelter, the Long Sands play the Clooney. That takes place on Saturday, January the 4th, 2025, with support from Lilac Lane and the Chris Norris Band. Tickets pre-sale are £15 from newcastlelegends.com or from the venue direct. Peter Beardsley will be doing a talk-in at the Tyneside Irish Centre. That takes place on the 10th of January. Tickets are £30. VIP tickets are £60 and you can get them from newcastlelegends.com. An evening with the entertainers takes place at the Tyne Theatre and Opera House in Newcastle on the 24th of January. Kevin Scott, Steve Watson, Steve Howie, John Beresford, Rule Fox, Peter Beardsley, Rob Lee, Keith Gillespie, Liam O'Brien, Darren Peacock, Paul Bracewell, Lee Clark and Killer Kill Klein are all going to be there with Gibbo, and you can get your tickets from the box office 0191 243 1171 or the website tynetheatreandoperahouse.uk. Lee Clark will be at the Gateshead Leisure Centre. That is on the 31st of January, and tickets available from the Leisure Centre 0191 250 66. Les Ferdinand will be at the Newcastle O2 City Hall the 6th of April 2025. That is a 12 o'clock start until 4 p.m. in the afternoon. Tickets available from ticketmaster.co.uk. And Will Scott's book on the entertainers is out now. £18.99, over 380 pages, and a lot of unseen photographs. You can buy that book now from newcastlelegends.com. And we do have some fanzines remaining. If you want to buy an NUFC Matters fanzine, issue 1 is still available, again from newcastlelegends.com. And please take your time to flip onto our other channel, The Word on Blake 7. Please hit the subscribe button and help that channel grow. And it's welcome to Rob. How are you, mate?
I'm good. I'm very good, guys. But I was watching the first half hour of the show and 100% agree with Sid. There's not enough shooting. The amount of times last night, put your laces through it, just have a shot, have a dig. And again, I think as well, there's very little communication. Just like a Brian Robson type. I don't see that, like Brian Robson's in the 80s or 90s. But yeah, to end on a positive for that one, I thought the War Flags was outstanding display as well. Really, really good, yeah.
Yeah, there's a little clue in Rob's name as to what album he's going to do today. It's straight out of Bencham, Rob.
Yeah. Well, actually, I'm doing this one today. It's a cassette single.
And actually, the one that he's not doing today, he always sends us a cover. Here it is. Very good.
Now, see that? I have been doing research on these albums, and it is an album.
No.
It's, well, that's a 7-inch single off the album, but the band Steel Panther?
Yes.
Right, here's some songs off this album. Up at the Crack, Ain't No Talking with Your Mouth, Tails Up, Heads Down. So that single was called Up at the Crack. So it's a bit like, I've obviously not listened to it, but it's a bit like Steel Panther, a bit jokey. But it's okay, it's a bit fun.
Good stuff. All right, so what album are you going to review?
I'm going to do, it's one that you recommended, Steve, way back. It's Eazy-E. Easy Does It album. I'd only listened to it recently, but I remember you did recommend it after we'd done Straight Out of Compton. Really good, very, very surprised how good it actually was. Again, it's mostly about lyrical content with this one, but this was 1988. It was produced by Dr. Dre and DJ Yella. Track 1, Still Talking, standard, well, not standard. Rap lyrics, I obviously can't repeat on here. It's a good, fun song. Very, very big sound, big chorus with this one. There is a section in it. It's Ice Cube is playing Grandpa in this. It's very funny if you listen to the lyrics to it. Listen with care and caution. Then you've got Nobody Move. Going by a lot of the songs, I think Eazy-E liked his ironmongery, shall we say. So this is, it's like a robbery rap song. Very good tempo. I think this could have easily been like Grand Theft Auto sort of computer game, if they still call them computer games. So it would be a good soundtrack. The guitar is really sort of hypnotic, unusual for me. It's, again, I think you said, Steve, like Eazy-E, he's just so ruthless, and even is his delivery and his musical abilities. It's outstanding. You got Ruthless Villain. I think so far this one was my favourite of the album. It takes you back to that era, that generation, old school hip hop. Good scratching. Ice Cube takes vocals on this one. And it did remind me of Gangsta Gangsta, which is obviously on the Straight Outta Compton album. Really good song. You got track 4, Two Hard Mothers. It's sort of like a drum rap intro, very unusual. Again, really good, funky. I think it's like the funkiest I've heard out of NWA and on this album. Good intro, brilliant opening, brilliant tune. I think it's now, when I was doing this, taking my notes, this is now my favourite song on it. It's just outstanding street rap, I think they call it. I'm not sure. It's sort of street education, and I do believe these songs should be taught at school along with the Gun Club albums. Number 5, Radio. Again, this is like Easy on the radio. I think they call it. This is a dope track. That's what they used to speak on the Compton movie about the band. Second verse, really, really good. The whole mix goes up on this. A good full sound on this. Really, really funky bass lines on it. Another great song. Again, you got track 6, No More. Again, brilliant guitar part. This very much reminded me of Alphabet Street, was it, by Prince? Second and third verses are really good for me. Again, the education, what he's saying, how he's delivering it is, again, it's just miles ahead of anyone around him, my opinion. Now you got I'ma Break It Down. Again, definitely ahead of the time. This song, really good, fast up tempo, really good, interesting hand percussion parts on this one, keeping the beat steady. Quite fast as well, picks up, clever rapping again. He barely takes a breath, a bit like me just now. Then you've got Easy, Chapter 8, verse 10. It's quite an original song. It's different from the rest of the album. I think, again, if you listen to the lyrics, very unusual. There you go, Steve. Very unusual percussion in the background. It's quite dark and haunting and creepy, which I like. And I wasn't expecting to use those words with any hip-hop rap, but creepy, dark, haunting, atmospheric. I mean, I think hardcore rap, that love that genre would probably imagine this song's a filler, but I like it. I mean, it only just lasts for 2 minutes and just cuts out. So again, guests on this is Eazy-E, Dr. Dre, Yella, MC Ren, the DOC, and Ice Cube. And after I listened to this album, I went to see what I could find, if there was anything new or interviews on Eazy. There was a hologram I seen. And if you watch the Hall of Fame acceptance speech in 2016, it's really, really good. It's not just a cheap, thank everybody and off you go. It's really heartfelt, and they all say words. Eazy's mum's there, I think, or sister, but it's brilliant. So yeah, NWA matters. They really do, and it's an 8.5 out of 10.
8.5 out of 10. I did meet DJ Yella and little Eazy-E.
Did you?
Eazy-E's son, Danny Cox, actually brought them to the Northeast a few years ago. And interesting guys.
Oh, wow.
And they did a performance and they did all the NWA stuff at the O2 Academy in Newcastle. But little Eazy-E he does take after his dad. That's all I'm saying on that score.
That's brilliant. Great picture.
Yeah, good event that it really was. But yeah, great stuff. That's a bit from my youth, I've got to be honest. One of those albums which really did stand out. And Eazy-E, of course, passed away far too young. But great stuff. NWA and Eazy-E. Thanks for bringing us that, Rob. So Sid, as always, you chuck something into the music mix. What have you got for us this week?
Well, before I start, I was going to do it last week. My friend passed away recently, John Esplin, and most people who go to the record fairs in Newcastle will have known John. Yeah. So John, along with John Porteous from Pet Sounds, was the sort of king of the record fairs. So John was also, he was a promoter. What John didn't know about punk rock is not worth knowing. He was just, I just want to say, he used to sort of be a co-owner as well at Old Hits and Record Box for a bit in the 80s. He used to use my record shop as a base to sort of sell, like he used to advertise through the record collector in the old days. And so I'd see him every day, would have like a cup of coffee, play darts and stuff like that in the shop. He was just a top man. So yeah, real loss to the Newcastle and Northeast music scene, because John was a great guy, a lovely guy, and gone way too young. So yeah, just wanted to mention about John Esplin.
Yeah,
top man.
Yeah. Sorry for your loss.
No, he's a great guy. He'll not thank us for this though, because John was the king of punk, and I'm going to talk about Pink Floyd. So I've just done a show which I need to edit, which will take bloody ages, but it'll be up by probably next week. A Pink Floyd album ranking show. This is right up towards the top end, and it's Animals, and I would say it's possibly the most punk rock album of 1977. Certainly lyrically, with these acerbic lyrics with regards to society. Of course, it's got clear references to the book Animal Farm, because the characters, we've got lots of, there's only 5 tracks on the album. You've got animals, you've got pigs, sheep, and dogs, and all obviously linked to the Animal Farm story there. So allegorically, it's a sort of clear tale. It's a really, really great claustrophobic album, I would say, in terms of all the lyrics. The guitar playing is unbelievable. I think this is Dave Gilmour's best guitar album, because the guitar playing is just remarkable on it, actually. It's a superb album. It's bookended by Pigs on a Wing, both sides, very soft acoustic. And then the middle 3 tracks, because those 2 tracks are only about 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes max each. But the rest of the album's like 17-minute songs in that, absolutely outstanding. So you got Dogs. Lyrically, it's almost like a Weller track. It's about the whole old school tie system, dodgy handshakes, all that sort of stuff, about a rich man who sort of tramples on people. And then it's got the line about just another sad old man all alone and dying of cancer, which is like really brutal. Wow, how hard is that? Really brutal and sort of shocking lyrics, actually. I was genuinely taken aback. Lyrically, it's as hard as anything the Clash were doing at the time. And it's about that idea of people trampling on people in society, clearly against it, of course. Superb. We've then got Pigs. It's about capitalism, and it's in 3 parts. So part of it's about businessmen, the other part's about Margaret Thatcher, and the other part's about Mary Whitehouse. And again, dark, attacking lyrics, clearly politically sets out his agenda. It's brilliant, really great song, lyrically superb. And then we've got Sheep, and about, the way people are sheep-like in society. But of course, in the end, in this case, unlike the book, the sheep actually sort of win at the end. And it flips the whole thing on its head a little bit, and about standing together and fighting back against the dogs. It's a charade against the sort of good shepherd sort of story. It's brilliant. And it's about people getting their freedom at the end and marching on to freedom. It's absolutely superb, really intense. And as I say, most rock lyrics of 1977 are ironically from Pink Floyd. And of course, Pink Floyd, famously, John Lydon had a T-shirt with "I hate Pink Floyd" written on it. However, what people forget, he had to buy the Pink Floyd T-shirt in the first place. So he was clearly a fan, and I think he subsequently said he was actually a fan. So there we go. Animals by Pink Floyd. It's brilliant. Go and check it out. And this is the 2018 remix, which is slightly better in my opinion. They've just took away some of the reverb of it, and it's been mixed superbly. But brilliant. Animals, Pink Floyd, brilliant. Class album.
It's my favorite Floyd album as well. So I had goosebumps when you're talking through it.
I can absolutely see why. It is
stunning. Yeah.
On any given day, it's my number 1.
And you always bring us a book, and there's a one which is well, I'll leave it to you.
So clearly, to go with it, I've gone with Animal Farm by George Orwell, which it was clearly linked to. I've taught this on a number of occasions, actually. It's a book kids don't really get anymore now, because they don't understand the sort of the Russian historical aspect of it. They don't get it anymore. Well, many of them don't anyway. And of course, it's an allegorical tale with regards to Russia and the sort of revolution. But of course, you have the pigs that sort of come along, and old majors like based on Karl Marx, and then you have all these other pigs, Snowball based on Trotsky, and Napoleon based on Stalin, who come along and take over the farm, run the men out of the farm. And then by the end of the story, of course, it's all flipped on the head, where the pigs by the end are unrecognizable and become like humans, because they start walking on 2 legs. 2 legs are better than 4, as they keep whitewashing the rules from the wall, which, if we can do that, almost links to what's gone on with the Premier League, with the whitewashing of all the rules and all these constant changes. So, and it's just garbage, isn't it? So you've got this going on there. It's a brilliant book. It's an absolute stunner of a story. Very, very clever. Just written at the end of the war, actually, written at the end of World War I. Just before, it's about 3 years before 1984, which was basically 48. And you just flip the numbers around. So great story. Go and check it out. It's superb. Very, very clever piece of writing there by Orwell. One of his great books.
Great stuff. How's the new manager doing at Gateshead, Rob?
Not too bad. They're playing tonight, and I was just about to say that, but absolutely fantastic news. I think it's 10-year Tennessee now going ahead. So yeah, 4 points off top spot, I think, just now, playing tonight at International Stadium. It's not too bad though. Last week was just, I don't know, lackluster. Like you say, this consistency is what you need. That's it. You know, I mean, if everybody went to their normal day jobs and massively inconsistent, you're getting pulled into the office, you know, and that's what it's about. Consistency.
Exactly. Good stuff, Rob. Look forward to seeing you next week, mate.
Take care, Rob.
Thanks, guys. And you, mate. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Consistency, which is what Newcastle are at the minute. Consistently inconsistent.
Consistently inconsistent, yeah, 100%. Mark Bayer suggesting some great films to watch in the chat there, Mark. Thank you for that. And Mark says we should rename as a play on Sid the Sexist by calling it Sid the Realist Fact Oot. Just a comment he made from earlier on. Last 15 minutes, let's talk a little bit about the stadium, because I know since our last show, because obviously last week's had to be put off, they did have the meeting in the Stack. What was your take on that, Sid? I know you wanted to make a couple of points.
Yeah, it's quite clear, isn't it, that they want to move. It couldn't be more obvious as far as I'm concerned. The fact that they said, we can double the income and this, that, and the other, and I've watched various reports say otherwise, actually, but that's by the by. If it's in the program that Steve's selling, I've actually got an article on saying why we should move. So it's quite clear what my opinion is that I think we should move. And can I just say a couple of reasons why as well? The East Stand itself is absolutely falling apart. I mean, there are about 12 cubicles if you're mad enough to go to the toilet at the match. You know, if you have to, it's mental. But it's just the facilities are not great. The facilities are not good enough. It's a decrepit old stadium. Parts of it are just looking really tired, I think is the phrase I would use. And we could do with a much better stadium. How big is the debate, isn't it? How big's, 75,000 would be my preferred choice. I think we could probably sell it out on a regular basis. Maybe 70, but 75, I think we generally could, and I would have a top tier where if you're going to struggle, give it to the kids. Get kids in the ground. I want to see kids coming at the ground, and I don't want to see ridiculous ticket prices, which I fear may well happen and it's going to price some people out of the game, which feels wrong. I want to see where everybody gets the opportunity to go to the game. Yes, you're going to have your high-end flyers who are going to pay hundreds per match. That's absolutely fine. You've got to have them. But I also want to see the person who's not got a lot of money and can go to the odd game and get the opportunity to go and see it as a little bit of a treat, or some like parents might take their kids to go as a treat. I want to see that. I want to see everybody get the opportunity to go, and I want to see it priced fairly. Let's be honest, we can't go down the Tottenham route or Fulham. I mean, I was listening to Fulham charging like 190 quid for some tickets, and these aren't the corporate tickets. You're thinking, wow, that's just nuts. So 150 quid, which would be the price you're paying to see Bruce Springsteen, and I'm griping through that, So, yeah, it's just got to be fair. And yes, varied prices all the way around. Absolutely. If you want to pay for more expensive seats and nice, comfy seats and great views, fine. And I would like to see us move where I personally think, I have a feeling we might end up on the Town Moor at the bottom. Yeah, this sort of... what was that music venue called again? Now I forgot what they call it. But that's where I think we might move to. I could be wrong. Wayland Brewery, I suspect that's where we might end up. But I might be wrong. It might be just behind the Leazes, which would be perfect in my opinion. That's obviously the preferred choice.
Yeah.
But I what Newcastle Council's like, or what somebody will come up and kick up a fuss, and there'll be all of this, and it'll all be open, and there'll be a massive thing going on for bloody years. So I don't know. As long as it's not out of the city centre, then I don't mind. It's got to be 10 minutes max for me, really, to walk, and that's as far as I want us to go.
Yeah, I think when we find that the stadium gets pushed outside of the city centre, I think people will change their views. But I think,
if it's a Gosforth racecourse, I think there'll be hell on. Personally,
I think if it's within the city centre boundaries, I think people will welcome the progress. And listen, the point I made on Friday's show, which led to other people's comments, and people were a little unhappy with them. But my comments were just playing devil's advocate, which is what you do when you sometimes run a podcast, which was, can we fill a 75,000 seater stadium? 3 weeks ago, Newcastle winning those games, or 2 weeks ago, sorry, everyone's happy and everyone's joyful. Of course, you feel like you could fill 75, 80,000 seater stadiums. But of course, after a result like yesterday, and you hear some of the people around you calling for Eddie's head and booing players at times, like the previous games. You just think, well, could you really? That kind of fickle fan wouldn't be probably wanting to pay through the nose to get a season ticket. So, but I get it. It is a chicken and egg situation. Newcastle hampered by PSR, do need more revenue, do need more commercial revenue. A bigger stadium's going to help that. So yeah, listen, I'm not against a new stadium at all. People know that. I just want what's right for the club and what's best for the club. So we will wait and see. Now, I know you wanted to touch on the Man City case as well, Tim, because that's another thing which has been in the news. Keith Patterson, I noticed, will be doing the Geordie Journos with Liam Kennedy. I think it's tonight, or whatever. So yeah, and Keith will be back on this show as well in due course. But Keith often makes it simple, and we listen to what Keith says, because he knows what he's talking about. So what's your take on what you've heard so far that's coming out?
To the 1991 ruling, haven't there, with regards to sort of trading with various partners. So with that, financially should help Newcastle a little bit, as far as I'm aware. I'm happy to be proven wrong, by the way, but I believe that's the case. But if that's also the case, do Newcastle not then have a reason to object, with regards to the last 3 years, because they've changed the rules? And the other thing as well that really gets me is the loan system. All of a sudden, these loans have been allowed to switch and transfer into shares. Where was Newcastle's opportunity to have 400 million plus worth of loans? Where was our facility? That could have got us like 8 players. We'd be winning the title with that. So it just seems absolutely wrong. And it seems so unfair. I think, as I'm going careful with my words here, it seems so unfair. It's just not right. And I keep saying this, and I'm going to go back to saying this. Why? If to go along with Keith's idea, if Man City will obviously, in my opinion, take them to court, why do we not have one of the trusts stepping forward as one of the groups to do Keith's proposal of taking them to court? Not the club, one of the trusts. There are 2 trusts there. Why is one of them?
One's a trust, one's a supporters club. Must make that clear.
I beg your pardon. But why one of them not stepping forward? All right, because they will have members who are accountants. They will have solicitors. Why they're not doing this? Why? I want to know why. Because it's not going to affect them. So, it's not going to affect an individual. Nobody's going to expect an individual to come forward and do it, But as a group or a trust or whatever, then you've spread the load. And the clubs, as Keith said, will financially then help out, And if Nick DeMarco is basically saying it's a case you're going to win, I don't understand why it's not happening. It doesn't make any sense to me, but I'm prepared to be shot down, I don't understand it, is the honest answer.
No, me neither.
We're just being hampered. We're being hampered from spending. And as I've said time and time again, I don't want Newcastle United to go and spend £1 billion every transfer window and buy the title. I don't want that. But I want to see us have the opportunity to spend some money and a fair proportion of money. I would put a spending cap on, personally, and I would make it 350, 400 million pound per transfer window or whatever it is, and I think that would be fair, or for a year, maybe it's even like half a billion, fair dues. Everybody has it then. We know where we're at, and it's everybody's got the equal opportunity to do something. But at the minute, it just stinks, and we're being restricted. It's restriction of trade, isn't it? Basically,
yeah.
That's basically what's happening. To my eyes, that's my opinion. But to my eyes, that's what looks like it's happening. And I don't think it's right. Think it's right. But I want to know, why has a trust or whatever not stepped forward?
Maybe they will. Let's see what happens over the course of the next couple of months. It's going to be interesting. You need somebody like Keith who's going to put his money where his mouth is, of course. And that's where things can, prove, difficult. But we'll wait and see what happens with that. The FA Cup is on the horizon, everybody. Of course, January is the first game, January the 11th, for teams in the Premier League. And the draw takes place on Monday. and that's a change in the FA Cups as well. The game's replays have officially been scrapped. Ties are now going to be settled via extra time and then penalties if there's a draw at 90 minutes. And Newcastle last played an FA Cup tie on home ground in January 2022 when we were beaten 1-0 by Cambridge. Since then, we've had 5 successive away draws, including Sunderland, who were very hospitable, if you remember.
Yeah, exactly. Can I just say, with regards to the FA Cup, if they're talking about giving money to the lower teams and all the rest of it, why don't they just start ranking the teams now and play top against bottom?
Yeah,
and then, therefore you got, and also allow them, if they want, to switch grounds and therefore create extra revenue for them. And I know people might say, "Oh, it takes away some of the magic and this, that, and the other," but it's just a proposal, and I think that would be quite nice. I think that would be quite nice, personally.
Newcastle travel to Selhurst Park, 3 o'clock kick-off on Saturday, so no TV coverage. All the away tickets have been sold. 3,000 fans will be in the away end. And yeah, this really is out of the frying pan, into the fire when you've had a bad defeat like we did last night. Mark Gahey lies in wait as well. Hasn't been impressive, it has to be said, this term. And Palace do have injury issues. Mark Gahey almost been playing a central defensive midfield role at times in the last couple of games. So be interested to see where he lines up. Could be a good time to play Crystal Palace for Newcastle. Crystal Palace, of course, will be thinking it's a good time to play Newcastle. But to make it better, last night's result, we need to get a win away from home. How do you see this one panning out, Sid, at the weekend?
Yeah, it's a funny one, isn't it? Because they absolutely tore us apart last year. They were the informed team. I mean, at the beginning of the season, if they'd kept on to the right winger, who I thought was magnificent, by the way, who's gone over to Bayern Munich, and we tried to buy him, I was predicting them to be like top 6. I thought they were going to be the dark horse team that was going to come through because they looked amazing. They've got a good centre forward there who's not firing at the moment. They're a really hard team to judge. I'm really not sure. I'm going to hedge my bets and go for a 2-2 draw on this one. I think it's going to be a tough game. I think they're a strange team, aren't they? I'm amazed they're not about 8th or 9th. I'm really amazed. I'm amazed they're struggling so badly. I mean, apparently they put £100 million at the beginning of the season on their manager to try and stop Bayern Munich from prizing them away. That's how sort of confident they were about him and all the rest of it. And now his job's on the line, which seems crazy. Bearing in mind they were the informed team. They were the informed team for the last 2 months of the Premier League last year. They were top of the form charts.
Yeah.
So it's a really tough one, and it's a hard ground to go to as well because the crowd are quite raucous. Mm-hmm. I quite like their ground. I think the fans are pretty good down there as well. They seem to have a big chip on the shoulder about Newcastle for some reason, which I don't quite understand. I've got a good mate of mine, Nick, who used to be in my band many years ago. He's a big Palace fan. He lives down there. But I don't understand. So if he's watching, hello. But I don't quite get the whole. I don't get the whole hatred of our team. I don't understand it. And they're coming up with big flags and all that. It's like, what the hell's that all about? We don't even know who half their owners are. And you make some comment on one of a platform about it, and they go nuts and say, "No, it's rubbish. We know who they all are." And then they list them, and you're thinking, "Yeah, but that's not all of them."
Yeah, it's bizarre. It's bizarre, and it's one we don't tend to react to, and we just get on with it. But yeah, you're right. It is a strange one. It's the London game I dislike the most.
It's hard to get to as well.
I don't like it. It's not my favourite game ground at all, I preferred Millwall to bloody Crystal Palace, I'm going to be perfectly honest. But awful place to go to. But hopefully Newcastle will get a result. Of course, we'll be looking ahead to that in a little bit more depth over the next couple of days. Don't forget, Sid has got his own YouTube channel, Songs from the Attic, 1977.
2 shows out in the next week. Top 15 Christmas songs is coming out on the 1st of December. And then Pink Floyd the week after.
Brilliant stuff. And let me just remind everybody watching today and in the chat that we do have the fanzine. It will be on its way this week, so don't worry. The Christmas edition will be out, and as I say, Sid has already got his article in there, so there it is. Ho, ho, ho. Very good, Rob Maltman. Good design that, mate. Yeah, and the Christmas do is on the horizon in aid of Newcastle's Cat and Dog Shelter, and that will be tickets a tenner. And Nobby Solano will be the special guest. 20th, Saturday the 28th of December, 7 to 11. Always a good occasion and always one for charity. So if you get a chance to come along to that, please do. I know there's already a few of you bought tickets, but get your tickets now. Do not miss out. And did I have something else to plug or mention? I think that's it. Yes. Just a thank you to everybody. Yeah, we did put the stats up the other day, but just sometimes people miss them. 76 new subscribers, 109,000 total views and 2.1 million minutes watched. Thank you to everybody who supports NUFC Matters. We never take it for granted. And don't forget, at the weekend, no live shows, Professionals isn't on, but we do have this beauty, Lee Clark and Joe Allen, Joe's latest guest on his show. It's a great interview, that. Obviously, I sit and say nothing, and Joe cracks on with an ex-player, but great show, that. So that's on Sunday. And we've also got the return of Ben Jacobs this weekend. Ben will be coming on. The transfer window is looming. 50 people on Barry Hogan's list. So I thought we'll get Ben on because he's going to be quite busy over the next few weeks. Be good to get him on and hear his views. But thanks to Sid. Thanks to Rob. Thanks to you for watching. And we will see you tomorrow, 6 o'clock. Geordie's here. Geordie's there. Take care, Sid. Bye-bye.
Take care, folks. Bye-bye.